Welcome to Filler. I'm Joe. And that's Steve.
I'm sorry. I had to have another Spindrift. Sparkling water. Real fruit. That's it. It's too good. It's addictive. I'm losing control of my life, Joe.
I would understand that, though, because when you cracked it, did you hear the bubble? Did you hear the sizzle?
Yeah.
It sounded great. We don't even need to do this podcast. We could just crack open Spindrift cans, and we could just stop talking about Blink-182 right here.
No, we need to do the podcast and get Spindrift to sponsor us so I can afford my habit, which is a full-on addiction now. I can't stop this. We've been here for like an hour, and I'm on my second can already. Like, that won't be my last, Joe. It won't.
I didn't even have my second can, but already I can feel the itch on my tongue.
Yeah? You getting thirsty?
Calling. So this is part 2 of the Blink Files called Sincerity Is Scary. On part 1, we talked about Cheshire Cat. We talked about Dude Ranch. We talked about Enema of the State. And we talked about our backgrounds with the band and our general feelings about them as well. Do you feel like there's any new insights that you have on Blink as a group before we head into Take Off Your Pants and Jacket?
Enema was the first album where it started to make sense to me, where I was starting to see the appeal. And kind of, I started to retroactively enjoy them, like kind of almost fill in the blanks of the past of like how I would have liked this a lot as a teenager. And that maybe I was a little too hard on them when I thought I knew better, when I thought I was too smart or evolved for something like this. Now, I think I could just appreciate it for what it is and not say I need it or missed out on much. But that's why I think going forward through the rest of these albums is going to be so interesting.
I think it gets more interesting for my perspective of Blink a little later on.
Mm-hmm.
Probably by the end of this episode is when you're going to start seeing something maybe that you don't expect, maybe that you've started to pick up on just in off-mic conversations that we've had about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely have different feelings about Blink-182 now than I did before listening to this.
Yeah.
And I got to say, Cheshire Cat, Dude Ranch, and Enema of the State on re-listenings, they haven't really impacted me in any way thus far. Mm-hmm. In this whole revisiting. I still love Blink. Mm-hmm. I still look back fondly on the times when I would listen to those albums. But right now, I am still in the same place with how I feel about them, that they are an important, meaningful part of me as a musician and person and whatnot.
Okay.
So with that being said, we're going to start with Take Off Your Pants and Jacket from 2001.
Oh, it's a jerk-off joke.
It is, yeah.
I know.
I know you do. No. I love that they made a jerk-off joke as a title.
Yeah.
I love the acronym on the page. It says Toy Page, which is also just a fun thing to say in my head every time. So it's win-win either way for me. I think it's great because they had Enema of the State, which I didn't understand what an enema was until I was much older. And then I was like, that's funny. It's a butt joke. I think they take that up a notch with Take Off Your Pants and Jacket.
Do you believe them that Dude Ranch is not a euphemism for semen?
I do believe them because I didn't even think of that until just now.
It was in the Dan Ozzie book because they...
Oh, I didn't even remember that, yeah.
Yeah, they said people have asked them, Dude Ranch, is that like ranch sauce? Like, is that what it's supposed to be? And they were like, no, we just thought Dude Ranch was a funny phrase.
I believe them, because when I think of Dude Ranch, I didn't think of ranch sauce. I thought of a ranch
ranch, yeah.
with animals and whatnot.
Yeah,
so
like the
I
cover,
believe them. I believe them.
I don't know
So
if I can trust them, though.
so the thing is, we both have come to realize that they're not too deep. So I think we should trust them when they say that it wasn't that deep of an idea. So I think we should start with the first song, because this is where I think the band begin to get even more intentional with their serious ideas.
I love this song.
Tell me about that.
So the last song on Enema, Anthem, pretty decent closer. You know, it's about like wanting to grow up, right? You know, like all the things you look forward to being able to do when you grow up. Anthem Part 2 being the opening of this album as a response to the first anthem, kind of continuing that story, but instead like having grown up a little bit and the horrors that come with it, like realizing just how unfair and shitty the world actually is, and that you've kind of like rushed through the best part of your life to get to something you thought would be better and isn't. It's no Shakespeare, but it's pretty deep for them, you know, and it, I think, set a really high bar for the rest of the album, especially an album that's called Take Off Your Pants and Jacket. I was like, I wasn't expecting that.
That's fair.
It made me excited to listen to the rest of the record, and then I was kind of disappointed. This kind of just felt like Enema 2 with singles I didn't like as much. I didn't like First Date and The Rock Show. They just felt like generic early aughts teen comedy movie songs, you know, that like, that's not their fault that they got put into movies like American Pie and shit like that. That's not their fault. It's just I couldn't, in the way that I could get past that feeling to enjoy What's My Age Again and All the Small Things and songs like that. I didn't feel like there was any cake under the frosting of First Date and The Rock Show. So I don't know, like songs more like Stay Together for the Kids that kind of tie into something like Adam's song, the, you know, stuff about Mark's parents, and that they have a music video that has a disclaimer about children being affected by divorce.
Yep.
It shows that they care, and that was more of what I was expecting from an album that starts with Anthem Part 2.
Okay.
But ultimately, it just kind of felt to me like the Amnesiac to Enema's Kid A. Just leftover songs, more just kind of more of the same that was just trying to keep the status quo alive. And it does it well, but it's just, yeah, it's very status quo affirming, and came out so soon after Enema that it just kind of felt like, okay, this is just to keep the train rolling and doesn't offer me anything new. And I don't think I'd feel that way if Anthem Part 2 didn't set my expectations so high. You know, I would probably be more forgiving if I didn't see the glimpse of something to be excited about and then not have it followed up.
That's fair. I don't think I have the same emotional resonance with Anthem Part 2 that you do, because I didn't like the first Anthem.
I didn't think it was that great either.
It wasn't that great. And if you listen to our first episode, we don't even talk about it. I thought it was actively annoying with its syncopated rhythm. So I appreciated that Part 2 was better.
Yeah.
But it is definitely just like a mom and dad are bad kind of song. And like kids are screwed. Which I don't think is that deep. Granted, on the barometer of Blink, yeah.
Yeah, for Blink, it's deep.
It's deep. So there's a couple things that you said in there that I think are interesting. The first was that it just feels like generic 2000s teen comedy movie music. I think they are having the disadvantage of time and us having listened to other music that's like that, because they kind of invented that genre.
I know that I get into this debate all the time with myself of like, do you blame? I think we talked about this in the 500 Days episode too. That,
We do,
like,
yeah.
Do you blame the shitty indie rom-com that's inspired by 500 Days, or do you blame 500 Days for the thing that it inspires that isn't as good,
Right.
or the thing that reuses a trope not as effectively and it's just has nothing new? Do you blame the originator of that? I think it depends.
That's fair.
I guess because this didn't feel like those singles were anything special, or just didn't hit me in quite the same way, and it could be a completely subjective thing. I wasn't as interested in, I don't know, giving grace to those songs, whereas All the Small Things sounds exactly like that. What's My Age Again? Like those songs sound like that kind of teen comedy movie stuff. But I don't know. I guess just hearing more of it, I was like, okay, I get it,
And so this is the second thing that I wanted to talk about that you brought up, that it just feels like more of the same from Enema. I don't disagree with you. I think it does too. I think it's similarly well produced. Again, Jerry Finn killing it. Like, it sounds really good. It's easy to listen to.
Definitely.
I think it is a stronger album than Enema because it drops the fat that I perceived on Enema.
Okay.
So songs like The Party Song, songs like Mutt, the worst parts of the casual misogyny that are really prevalent through Enema. I didn't have those problems with Take Off Your Pants and Jacket when I was younger or upon re-listen now.
Okay.
So that's why I can listen to First Date again and go, yep, that's cool. I'm with it. I listen to Rock Show and I go, hey, I played that in high school. Still with it.
Yeah.
Like, I think those songs all hold up better as a unit versus Enema, where we have Wendy Clear, which no one really remembers Wendy Clear. I do because I listen to it obsessively. But a song that could be the Wendy Clear of Take Off Your Pants and Jacket is Online Songs. That's a better song. Like, they are just 2 years better worth of musicians, 2 years worth of songwriters that are baked into what they're making, even if it is the same.
Yeah.
So I guess ultimately I'm saying Take Off Your Pants and Jacket kind of sands off the edges of Enema for me.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
And that's why I prefer it and why I do think it is a step up from Enema. But I understand why someone would say, like you're saying right now, it's just the same thing and I prefer the first one better. I think I was trying to compare it to movies, and my original one was it's not Empire Strikes Back to A New Hope because it's not darker. I'm not talking about themes. I guess you could say it is a little darker because Anthem Part 2 is deeper, Stay Together for the Kids is heavier, but they had an Adam song.
Yeah.
So there is some depth to Enema. But what I really landed on was I thought that it felt like Home Alone 2 Lost in New York to Home Alone, because it's the same, but for me, it's better. It works better.
Oh, man. Oh, we could do a whole episode about that. I hate the second one because it's just the same thing, but in New York.
Which I think is great, because then you're upholding your aesthetic choices.
I guess so.
Yeah, so I appreciate that.
I mean, as a side note, I mean, it's not worth debating, but I don't know. I get the comparison though. I get that. I honestly, because I'm so annoyed by Home Alone 2, just literally copy pasting the script and changing the scenes, like scene locations, is that actually feels like more of a dig at Take Off Your Pants than I would say, because
That's fair.
I guess like we had said, the idea is Blink an album band? Not really. I feel more compelled to examine the singles because that feels like their strongest suit, and So maybe I'm not giving enough credit to both records, Enema and Take Off Your Pants and Jacket, because there's more to it than just the singles. And I did listen to both. I haven't skipped a single song through this whole thing. But again, I listened to both back to back. I was at the gym. Maybe I just got a little ear fatigued, and I was just kind of like, this is. But the reason I think that I didn't is because Anthem Part 2 seemed to wake me up a little bit, you know, because I remember coming out of Anthem being like, all right, you know, not the best closer, but like I was pleasantly surprised by the album. So then to suddenly hear Anthem Part 2, and I was just like, whoa, this isn't just more of the same. And then it kind of was. I guess I felt more of a coming in and out of paying attention.
Sure.
Where Enema kept my attention a little bit better. But having listened to their stuff after this, like way after this, I would be much more inclined to revisit this and give it a second thought, where there are other records I have no reason to listen to again.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some of the tracks.
Okay.
Because some of them, I think, deserve some discussion. For me, what stood out was We Have the Crass on Happy Holidays, You Bastard.
I brought that one up too. Or I'd have that note. I was like, I missed the stupidity of that one.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe I was saying that.
I think it still rips. I think it's still fun. I still died laughing at the Labor Day verse, even though I know it's coming. Like, I think it's disgusting, but I'm like, yeah, I'm here for it. I like you said, I missed it. When I was a kid, I really, really liked Story of a Lonely Guy. I thought it was so catchy, but my note was that I was really, really happy that I didn't get into Reddit until I already had sex. Because this is like an incel's anthem part 3, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not this one doesn't hold up. This is just like a sob story for a guy. Like, this song could have been cut. The Rock Show, I think that bridge where Mark is singing and it just like kind of takes the energy down just like a notch, that I will never not love that bridge.
Yeah.
I'll tell my partner when we're listening to songs in the car, I'll trash bridges, and I'll say, why is that in the song? There's no reason you need to have a bridge unless it's doing something thematically or musically or whatever the case, where if it's just like a little bit more of the same, or you sit back for a second and land on a chord, or the drummer stops, or any of these overly stereotypical things of bridges, if it doesn't advance the song, I would say cut it. I think I've even said some of this in our LVP practices where like we need to tighten bridges up. Or make them more interesting in whatever regard. Yeah,
we've kind of had the opposite problem of like not having a bridge and kind of needing one.
Yeah. But it's hard to write a good bridge is what I'm saying. And I think this one's masterful because I get to that part and I'm like, oh, that's still a great melody. And I'm singing along to that, even though I'm going to sing along to the chorus. You sing along to everything. Everything's a hook with that song. Which did you prefer between Stay Together for the Kids and Adam's song?
I remember Adam's song better.
Okay.
It stays in my mind better, but I didn't know what it was getting at because I had to ask you, like, what is the story of the song again? So I don't know. I'm not expecting a lot of like hidden meaning and stuff from Blink, so I kind of like the bluntness of Stay Together for the Kids. It's just clear what it's about. Like, I can appreciate that from a band like this. But I guess as music, Adam's song it was more surprising in the album it was on. It was the first one to do it, which again, it's not like you can't top an idea when you like do it better the next time, but I don't know if Stay Together for the Kids does it better. I mean, to skip ahead a little bit, I think Go does it better than either of them, and I don't even really like that song that much.
Okay, That's fair. We'll get to Go because I don't want to spoil my thoughts on Go.
Yeah.
Stay Together for the Kids worked better for me than Adam's Song. So when I said I'm not an Adam's Song truther, it's because Stay Together is the one that hit me.
Yeah.
And I just find it catchier. And not to disparage Adam's Song because it's nice in its own regard, but I said maybe for some kids, for some Mark and Tom dynamics that I wanted more of in Adam's Song.
Yeah.
Like maybe that's why I'm about it, but I don't know. My ultimate idea, though, was that maybe Blink just doesn't work for me when they're serious just yet.
Okay.
And so I was not crazy about Adam's Song. I like Stay Together for the Kids better. I don't think they can pull off serious yet. And we could talk about that in a little while. I do have to say, I don't remember what you wrote about Please Take Me Home. I think Please Take Me Home is their best closer.
I guess I forgot about it because I just wrote weak closer.
Then that's fair. Yeah. Okay. So that's your thoughts. Yeah, that's okay. I thought Please Take Me Home was better than I'm Sorry. I thought it was better than whatever.
But this one was like kind of long, wasn't it?
No, it was like maybe 3.5 minutes. I guess that's long by Blink standards. I don't know.
I'm trying to remember this one.
I thought Please Take Me Home was the first one where I was like, okay, I got a full cohesive Blink-182 album and I'm happy to go do something else.
Okay.
Whereas I'm Sorry was stupid. I forget how Dude Ranch already ends. What is it? Depends? Or Degenerate?
No, Depends was Cheshire Cat.
There you go. See, we're already
I'm
losing
Sorry
the thread.
was Dude Ranch.
I'm Sorry was Dude Ranch. Okay. So both those albums, I thought the closers were just like random songs.
Yep.
And on Enema, while I understand it was intentional to end it with Anthem, I just don't like Anthem.
Yeah.
And so I'm not a fan of that song. And so Please Take Me Home started making me feel like, okay, they can write a closing song on a record that I can sit there and be into, which I think is a good segue into Blink-182, the album, which I think we should call Untitled just to differentiate.
Yeah, self-titled albums drive me crazy. That's a pet peeve of mine.
This one especially because it is called Blink-182. So it's a self-titled album, but it's regarded as untitled. So it does have a title.
Yeah.
It's stupid.
Yeah, every time you said untitled in the notes, like when referring to it, I was just like, shouldn't it be self-titled? Like, but also like, I don't know. It feels like a lot of bands do the self-titled album either when they just can't think of anything else or they want to make some kind of statement about how this is the magnum opus definitive record of our band.
Which do you think is the case for Blink on this one?
No, but it is a good reset.
Okay.
I have very mixed feelings about this record because upon initial listen, I was a little disappointed. But my feelings on it have definitely changed since hearing later stuff. I learned to appreciate it more later. But again, I think I was just kind of teased by the signs of growth. Because like you said, like, I don't know if I'm ready for them to be serious yet. I was fully ready for it because I knew by reputation this was going to be the one where they surprised people.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't have the same impact as like An American Idiot, but it's still a big swing for them, you know? And I was always confused knowing that Feeling This was on this record.
Yep.
Because, and especially as the first song, because based on like having heard it in passing before, I was just like, the fuck has evolved about that song? That just sounds like another annoying Blink song.
It sounds more like Enema to me than it did Take Off Your Pants and Jacket.
Yeah. Then I listened again, like for real this time, and like, you know, heard the flanger on the drums in the intro and the layered vocals coming out of the out in the outro, and that it had an attitude to it that actually felt a little more real than some of the stuff on Take Off Your Pants. So I was like, okay, this is actually kind of hitting.
Nice.
I wouldn't say it's the deeper, darker Blink that I was expecting, but like it's a solid opener, and I think Obvious follows it up well. It sounds good, like in a way that is new for them. Like I think it's like really good sounding, like dark and full in a way I wasn't expecting. And Tom even sounds better at singing for a little while.
This is Tom's best album so far.
Oh, easily. But then you get to I Miss You. And this song is so fucking corny. I'm sorry. I hate this song. I've always hated this song. I hate the Nightmare Before Christmas reference. I hate don't waste our time on me. Like it's always been annoying. It's always been the first thing I think of what I didn't like about Blink. Tom's voice and some like just cheesy shit. Like from there, I think that's where I kind of came in and out, you know? You were talking about interludes.
Yep.
Stockholm Syndrome interlude was wild to me because it's this tender love letter being read by a British woman. And the whole time I'm thinking, this is a joke, right? Like she's going to fart or something at the end. And she doesn't.
Yep.
And that's kind of worse to me because it's so cheesy. The wording of it, like it felt so over the top and so cornball that I was like, I thought it had to be a joke. I didn't think it was actually going to be like a genuine romantic thing.
Yeah.
Then it follows it up with Stockholm Syndrome, and that song's awesome.
Yeah.
But the last thing I'll say before we go back and forth more, this album to me feels like a response to Linkin Park.
Why do you say that?
Blinkin' Park, if you will. Because it started to hit on the song Down. So it just feels angsty, like it's trying, like it's trying to be angsty. Like some of it feels more genuine than others, I think, but there's a lot of songs I felt were like really filler. I think by the Fallen interlude, so another interlude, it really, all I could think about was like Linkin Park because of just how much they changed things in the rock scene at that time. And a lot of people were trying to follow suit and go like the 3 Days Grace, like butt rock kind of route of getting all edgy and whiny and stuff. Like, I don't know, that's kind of how this read to me. And I was a little disappointed by that.
I think that is your hottest take.
Yeah, probably. Again, everyone listening at home, our band is called the LVP, so go listen to that and tell me how I'm trying way too hard to sound edgy and deep.
Just like the album.
Yeah.
I don't think you're wrong about them trying too hard to be angsty on this. Mm-hmm. I think that they've had that angst in them all along, and I think it was there on Adam's song. It was there on Anthem, both parts. It was there on Stay Together for the Kids. Mm-hmm. And I think this was the album where they finally just decided to lean off the dick and fart joke pedal and lean on the heavy pedal.
Yeah.
And I understand that choice can cause mileage to vary too.
Yes.
For me, I think feeling this is like as the perfected, like the platonic ideal of Enema and Take Off Your Pants era. Like they can't beat that themselves.
Yeah.
I also think feeling this is probably like the strongest song between those two albums that it could fit on too.
Yeah.
And a lot of that, again, Jerry Finn. Like those choices that you were talking about, those were, I don't know how Blink influenced they were and how Jerry Finn influenced they were. Him sitting there mixing it after the fact. I like the switch up on Obvious because it's still hooky, but it's darker. Mm-hmm. So they're kind of doubling down on it.
Yeah.
I also noted, I think Tom sounds a lot better when he's angry.
Yes.
Not when he's doing anything else.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that he hasn't been getting better, because I thought he sounded
Yes,
great on Take Off Your
definitely.
Pants and Jacket. He sounded fine on Enema. And I think he actually even continues to grow as a singer as their career progresses too. But
Yeah.
when he's mad, I can listen to him yell, scream, screech, whatever all day. And I don't care how much autotune they have to put on it for it to work. It still works for me. With that, for me, I Miss You works just because it's romantic.
Yeah.
And it'll never not be romantic for me. It's not I Miss You without his bad inflections, which he
Does make it
definitely,
memorable.
he definitely plays up to. He must. He must know what he's doing.
Oh, when you hear his later stuff, like on One More Time, and he's singing normally for the first time, you know this is like a character.
Right.
You know? Yeah.
Right. But I understand why you're saying it's corny and cheesy. For me, the corniness and the cheesiness still work right now.
That's fair. Yeah. That could work. Yeah.
And I think that's why for that violence interlude that you found corny, I still found very romantic.
Violence interlude?
Or Stockholm Syndrome
Yeah.
interlude, sorry. It comes at the end of Violence, right?
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
yeah, and it's the segue into Stockholm Syndrome. I love Violence. I think Violence is an incredible song. It's them being a little progressive and like incorporating the electronic stuff that Mark likes and the electronic drum set that Travis likes. Maybe a little too much for the Fallen. But I think I was really surprised by how much I enjoyed Violence on this re-listen.
Yeah.
I forgot about that letter reading
Yeah.
of the woman, so it threw me for a loop on this listen, like it did when I was young. When I was young, I was annoyed by it because I was like, let me get to Stockholm Syndrome. I just want the dun-dun-dun-dun to come in.
Yeah.
And this time around, I was like, oh, wow, I'm kind of sad now after listening to that. So maybe I softened just as a person, which is a cool thing to reflect on listening to it as I get older. But the segue into Stockholm Syndrome, you can't beat that.
Oh, God, yeah.
Because you have the sadness and the anger of Violence. You get a quick love story that's tragic, and then you just get mad. And it's just like a brick wall breaking. I wish we got more Stockholm Syndrome,
Yeah.
but
So
yeah.
I think my ultimate disappointment in this is that it's another 16 song album, and it did not need to be. There's definitely some filler, even though I will say the filler songs on this feel more intentional than like Dude Ranch or Cheshire Cat, where like it's just everything.
What do you consider the filler songs on this album to be? I want to see if we agree or not.
I know you're going to disagree with me, but like Go, Asthenia, Always, like, I don't know. They're just kind of like, all right.
I agree with you on Go. I think Go could have been cut because I don't like Go.
Yeah.
Asthenia as an Angels and Airwaves tolerator. I like it. It also makes me think of like Space Oddity, but their version of Space Oddity. So
Yeah.
I'm down with it. It definitely could have used some editing and could have like cut off most of the intro. Always, I think, hits well because I have a soft spot for it. Of like my own memories from college and the girl I used to date and like playing the guitar for her and all this stuff. But I think you thinking Always needing to be cut still fits in with your philosophy because that works with you thinking I Miss You is corny. That works with you thinking.
But I can see the appeal of I Miss You, and like it's an iconic music video and stuff. I don't get why Always got a music video. Like,
It's catchy.
not enough. You know, I
Really?
don't think
Interesting.
I don't think it's single worthy.
Okay, that's fair. Maybe it's not single worthy. Yeah. I agree with you. It's not single worthy, but also I'm just starting to think you have an anti bias against bass led songs.
Is Always bass
It
led?
is, yeah.
Well,
I'm also messing with you. This is like one of the because you said earlier that you hated Strings, which was another bass led
Yeah.
track, but Always does have like Mark doing bass chords, and then it goes and blows up into like whatever synthy pop track.
my problems with Blank have never been the bass playing. Like, I could say that. No, it's okay. To comment on the philosophy I'm saying about like albums are too long, just like cut out the filler and tweak up the good songs. They bring Robert Smith onto all of this.
They do.
And I love The Cure. But that's another band that does not exactly bat 1,000. Like, they've got some misses. And they've got some songs that are way too long, some albums that are way too long. Definitely stuff you can cut. But I guess this kind of goes back to my original disclaimer that, like, I can just forgive it for them because I just like them more. I can't really explain it. Something about that just scratches the itch for me better. But I also do appreciate how much they like The Cure, clearly, so that's cool. But I guess my ultimate thought about approaching this as a dark record, or like with that intention, is that I feel like a lot of the songs are kind of telling and not showing. It's kind of very direct in its I feel sad, I'm so fucked up. Not telling a lot of great stories to exemplify those feelings. And it reads to me like when a child star grows up and starts swearing a lot and getting like sexier, like Miley Cyrus and her like Wrecking Ball, We Can't Stop bangers era, like saying, I'm not a little kid anymore. Look how much I say fuck and get my titties out, which is an attempt to seem mature, but just shows how immature you are to think that makes you mature.
Right.
That's kind of how this album reads to me. It's like it's trying so hard to seem dark that it actually kind of, the cracks are showing.
Okay.
But I don't want to discredit any actual dark feelings or tragic, or traumatizing past things that they've been through to pull from, because, I mean, I'd be an asshole to do that, like it's, of course, use that for inspiration. And I'm not saying that it has to be dark to be good, because I really liked Enema and there's almost nothing dark on that record. But my final point, I swear to God, this is my final point. The last song on this album is a live version of Anthem Part 2. And that tells me, but my read on doing that is that it's an almost defensive choice to demonstrate to anyone who might be sad there's no dick jokes on this record, that there was evidence already of them growing up in their past, because this is a live version of a song that already existed on their last record. The thing is, I think this album needed some of that snark that Anthem Part 2 has, because the best thing about Blink is they're fun. And Anthem Part 2 is fun, even when it's dealing with stuff that's dark or depressing or angry. It's got a fuck you, I'm a mosh energy to it that this album's kind of missing. That, like, that to me is the wrong step, to lean away from your strength of still making it fun. Obviously still do the sad songs, the romantic songs, but like, I think it needed more of that kind of attitude, I guess. Yeah,
that's fair. I appreciate that they were trying something different and new after we got the same thing for 2 albums.
Yes.
And for it not to work for you, I think is also a valid reaction.
But that's the thing. It also does kind of work for me. I'm being really hard because I'm reading off the notes of my initial reaction.
Yeah.
I have softened a lot on this since.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of trying to keep in line with initial, like, the journey I've been on in listening to their discography.
No, that's fair. And we'll talk about how we feel about them when we get to our ultimate rankings of the 10 albums that we listen to. I think that they do have a lot of maturity in the way that they step back on all of this for Robert Smith, because there's a lot of times where there's a feature on a song and it's there because they go, hey, oh, and that's the feature, right? But on this, that's Robert Smith's song, and it's basically Blink, his backing band, with some vocals from Tom here and there, which I think this is the most I've ever liked that song. I didn't like that upon first listen because I just wasn't a Cure head until I got older. But I think I think that shows that they've always been as melodramatic as they are crass.
Huh.
And they've just been showing their crass side this entire time.
Yeah.
And then on this album, they go, you know what? Like, we still like making the jokes. We still like doing all that stuff. I don't think their shows changed any in vibe at this time. Like, in the way that My Chemical Romance will change everything because of the whole production. I think they were still messing around with the crowd and doing all the screwball stuff. But this album just says, like, yeah, like, you know, we like to mess around, but at the same time, like, we have feelings. We have emotions too, and this is us trying to sing about them.
So how do you feel about it being called Blink-182 when it's not so definitive of a record of who they are, but more of a swing into a different direction?
I think this is them trying to say this is who we are after having all of these albums and songs of who you think they are.
Okay.
And that's why ultimately I wish this album was called Untitled. I think that's a better quote unquote title for it than Blink-182.
Yeah.
Because this might be how they see themselves, but it's not how the world sees themselves. And I think that's why this has such stark reactions from people, especially discovering for the first time, doing what we did, going on a deep dive of their discography. This is out of left field for them. And it could work. It might not work. When I got into them, I listened to their albums like front to back, and I think this was the latest one at the time. And when I got here, I was like, oh, this is cool. This is different.
Yeah.
This is fun. This is new. But there were a lot of songs like Easy Target, didn't like. Go, didn't like. All of this, I didn't like. I'm Lost Without You, I did not like.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I had a note about this. I said, as a closer, despite it being honestly a pretty beautiful jam, it exemplifies the problems that I had just listed. Like, is this just about being sad about a breakup? Like, I get that's a traumatizing thing, especially if it's your first true heartbreak. And this is kind of new ground for them to show so much vulnerability. But maybe we just set the bar a little too low for them to show us what a grown-up Blink-182 sounds like and overhype the result.
Right. And I think,
but again, that's more negative than I actually feel, because like just seeing that word written here, vulnerability.
Yeah.
That is very new for them.
Right.
You know?
That's a big step for them. Even though there were vulnerable moments on past albums, this is the vulnerable album that they have. And see, for me, I read I'm Lost With You much less deeply. And I read it as them trying to pull off a Jimmy World closer through a Blink lens.
Yeah.
And they're going for epic and heartfelt and anthemic, and I don't care. I don't care. That's not what, like, I'm sure it hit home when I was younger, but hearing it now, I was just ready to get through with it and finish the album and move on.
Yeah.
I appreciate what you said about them bringing back Anthem Part 2, the live one, as kind of like even their own subconscious way of saying, hey, we need to have some snark on the record. I wonder how much that was their decision and
or
how
the
much
labels.
It was the label's decision. Because based on the intentionality that they show on this record, which I think we can agree ultimately, and feel free to fight me on it, this is their most intentional record yet.
Easily.
They made every single choice. They made every single thing happen exactly the way that they wanted it to happen, that I was actually surprised that Anthem Part 2, the live version, comes after a song called I'm Lost Without You.
Yeah.
That I don't think it's so much the closer of the album, that it is a bonus track for like
absolutely.
some CD, you know?
Yeah.
And so with streaming upholding that kind of sucks because I think it undercuts the message that they're trying to give on the album. But I like your read on it. Like, I think that's
I like your read on it. That sounds good too. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad that we had this conversation about this record, because I was definitely cooler on it this time around than the last time I listened to it. And I appreciate that you were harsher on it too. And I look forward to seeing where it lands in our rankings later on.
Yeah.
as we go through the other half of their career, because this is only at this point what we've had four albums we've discussed.
This is the fifth.
The fifth one. There we go. I can't keep count anymore because I'm so blink pilled. Yeah, so we're only on number 5, which means we are halfway through it, and there's a lot more to talk about.
Yeah, this is a big turning point for our 3 young heroes.
Yeah. Which I think it's a good time to talk about their side projects, because this is kind of where the side projects matter the most in their career. So of the side projects that they've had, the ones that we focused on in this episode were Boxcar Racer, Plus 44, and Angels and Airwaves. So Boxcar Racer came out before Untitled, and it was really just Tom doing a solo concept post-apocalyptic album, and nothing more than that. I put on a couple songs really quick. I remembered them immediately, so I didn't feel the need to continue them. We're also not going to do that much of a deep dive on them because it's not the Boxcar Racer deep dive. It's the Blink Files. And what thoughts did you have on Boxcar?
I had no idea it was a post-apocalyptic concept album. I wasn't getting that at all. I don't know if that makes me dumb for not reading into it or he failed to convey it.
I think it's more so the latter.
Okay.
Yeah, because I only knew that it was a post-apocalyptic thing when I went and looked it up on Wikipedia to get some context for it. And I just thought it was a mad album.
Yeah.
And that was really it.
Yeah, it's angry, and it's impressive that they, put out Take Off Your Pants and Jacket in 2001, this in 2002, and then Untitled in 2003. That's a crazy work ethic.
Yeah.
And to have Travis on all of them.
And so that's, I think, the part that we should talk about is the personnel for Boxcar Racer. So Boxcar Racer was Tom doing his solo songs, and the label was just like, we'll put it out. And he said, sure. He asked Travis to drum on it because he needed a drummer. That's it.
Yeah.
And he knew a drummer that was real good, and Travis was like, I'll drum. That's it. He did not ask Mark to be on it. And
except that one song.
Which is weird.
Yeah.
Because Mark is not present on this album because Tom wanted to do a specific thing. He had all these songs, and he was like, I want to go do this. They were tired from doing Blink stuff. He just wanted to go do his own thing.
Yeah.
Similarly, how Vince and I do our own stuff. We do it for fun, and then we come back to LVP.
Yeah.
Right? Similar concepts. What happened is that with Tom asking Travis to join Boxcar Racer, Mark gets hurt. And he says, why couldn't I play bass for you on it? And Tom was like, it's not an us record, because he was worried about Mark joining it, making it into a Blink record.
Yeah.
That was not his vision. I wanted it to be a Boxcar Racer album, and I needed a drummer. Again, Travis was just filling the throne. He wasn't a big creative part of the project.
Yeah.
This hurt Mark, and that's why we get the song, I think it's Elevator. It's Elevator? Okay.
Yeah.
That's why we get Elevator, where Mark comes on and sings anyway, and you listening to the album without that context think it's weird, because why isn't this just a Blink album at that point?
Actually, the way I was reading it was like, okay, so Tom wanted to make this record, and he just invited Mark on to sing, to be like, hey, get my buddy on here, like.
Interesting.
So that's not how that was.
It was more so of a like, hey, my bad, dude. It was nothing personal.
Oh.
Yeah, come sing on a track kind of thing. Not a friend thing.
Yeah.
I think it was more so an apology letter.
Oh.
Like to invite him back and say like, nothing personal. Come on the track and whatever.
I mean, that's pretty obvious to us that when you put Mark and Tom in a room together, they're going to make Blink music. Like, why would Mark not get that?
And so this is like something that I started thinking about at this moment, because I am, and we'll see how I feel about this as things continue into the series. I was always a Mark person in Blink-182. I liked how he sounds better.
Yes.
I like his led songs better. I'm a bass player before I'm a guitar player. All these different things, I just feel more connected with Mark, I guess, in whatever parasocial way. And I can get Tom wanting a break and going to do his own thing, and I can respect that. And it also made me question, why can't Mark?
Yeah.
So it started to make me think about what is their dynamic in the band.
Sounds a little codependent, to be honest.
And that's what I started realizing upon this listen, was that Mark couldn't let that go.
Yeah.
And this rift started to occur. Mm-hmm. So after Boxcar Racer, we get Untitled the record.
Mm-hmm.
And then after touring for a bit, they go on hiatus.
Yeah.
And part of it is because of this Boxcar Racer tension. Part of it is tired from touring. Part of it is Tom wanting to go do his own thing and not be beholden to asking his buddy to drum, but that also now kind of forces him to ask his other buddy to sing so as to avoid hurt feelings. A lot of tension, and so they split up for a bit. Boxcar Racer never comes back.
Yeah.
Instead, we get 2 new side projects in this 8-year interim between Untitled and Neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
And one is Angels Airwaves, which is Tom DeLonge's band, which is, I don't know if you agree with me. For listeners at home, Steve is making a very pained face. I think Angels and Airwaves is proggy pop punk.
I wish it was proggy pop punk.
Okay, so then maybe that's what he's aiming for.
It is later because I listened to that playlist you put together of your favorite songs by them, and there was some stuff on there that wasn't bad. It was actually kind of good. Like I was like, okay, they grew over time, and there's some stuff on here I can actually like stand. I hated the first album.
Yeah.
We don't need to whisper.
Yep.
It was I said it was the perfect midpoint of suck between U2 and Imagine Dragons. I hated this record. Yeah. It felt like every single song was the same tempo, the same fake, pompous, overproduced anthems, for lack of a better word. Like it was like shouting to try to sound smart.
Yeah.
You know, trying to make it sound big, to make it sound like it was more important than it actually was. And I was expecting some weird alien shit, and it's just not there. It's like if you're gonna do the weird fucking thing, do it. You know, give me the alien shit.
Yeah,
like go crazy with it. Otherwise, it's just like it's just boring and it's empty. I hate this album. It's probably my least favorite thing I've listened to through this whole journey. But then some of the other songs were okay later, so it's all right.
That's good. I don't think I could say it's my least favorite thing I listened to in our whole journey.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, no, maybe that's overselling it, but still.
No. Your reaction's valid because I don't disagree with what you're saying about it. It does feel pompous. It does feel self-serious. And when I was a kid and I first heard this come out, I was excited because I was like, oh, new Tom. It's like Blink-182, so I'll take it, and it's not.
Nope.
It's like very much so his show, and he's trying to be like this hard front man. Mm-hmm. There's songs on We Don't Need to Whisper that I really do like, and I'll still defend them, but I can't listen to the album either. No. It's sleepy.
For the first 3 songs, I was kind of like, okay. Then it gets to The Adventure, which I think is like their biggest song, and I'm like, this is awful.
Yeah.
Like that, like the fact that he still uses his Blink voice on these songs is just the biggest tonal mismatch, and I couldn't stand it. And so to the point that one of the songs you added on that playlist was A Little's Enough, and that comes right after The Adventure. I didn't hate it as much hearing it in a vacuum, divorced from The Adventure, but holy shit, that album just brings everything down.
It does.
When you try to get through the whole thing.
Yeah.
But what were some of the songs I actually liked?
Do it for me now.
That was on the first album.
Yeah.
Didn't like it. Said that about A Little's Enough. Everything's Magic was fun.
That's a Blink song.
Yeah,
that's just a Blink song.
Yeah.
You know,
it's just different arrangement basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, I said Sirens is almost good enough to save and listen to again. Almost.
Fair.
I didn't like Secret Crowds. Thought
I
Shelf
put-
was too long.
I put Secret Crowds on there because that was a single off of I Empire. I think that's the name of the album. I don't like Secret Crowds. I put that on there because I was like, oh, I think I like the chorus.
That's giving the picture, though.
Yes.
I see.
Yeah.
Hallucinations I thought was fun, and that's where I thought Tom's voice was finally starting to fit the project.
I agree.
Or at least where I started to notice it. Saturday Love, meh. Anomaly, cute.
Saturday Love was another Secret Crowds.
Okay.
I'm not. That's where like parts of the song really work for me. Overall, not so much, but it's like indicative of where they're at right there. Anomaly, I genuinely love.
Okay.
I think Anomaly stands out so well for that project because I don't remember any other acoustic song from Angels and Airwaves.
Yeah.
Because I thought of them in this electronic space.
Yeah.
So when he picks up a guitar and it's close mic'd and it's like a cutesy little thing that's like similar to I Miss You in its cheesiness and corniness level.
Yeah.
It was just novel to me. So I was like, I still like Anomaly. Like, it's cute.
Yeah, it is cute. And the last one on there was Time Bomb. Was that another single you put just to give the full picture of the band? Okay.
Yeah.
Because my reaction was, this is the weirdness I wanted. And then it becomes a fucking New Era All-Time Low song.
Yep.
And even has the same title as an All-Time Low song. So that drove me a little crazy. I was like, oh, this sounds like it's going to get weird alien shit. And then it's just like, oh.
Nope.
No, this is all the crap that they inspired.
I think it's really weird that he never does the weird alien stuff on these albums.
I thought that was the point.
I thought it was the point too.
Whatever.
I don't know. And that's really how we feel about Angels and Airwaves.
Yep.
I think between the two of us, I'll listen to a new Angels and Airwaves album when it comes out. Would you?
What the fuck? No.
Yeah. So
maybe morbid curiosity. If you put it on in the car or something, I'd be like, all right.
Yeah. I also wouldn't go out of my way. Like, it's not the first thing I'm listening to on a Friday when new music comes out, you know?
Yeah.
But it'd be interesting.
You'd get around to it, yeah.
So their last side project in between Untitled and Neighborhoods is Plus 44.
Mm-hmm.
And Plus 44 is Mark Hoppus and Travis Barker actually being in a band. It's not just like, I need a drummer, come over.
Yeah.
He's like there creatively, and their guitarist friend, whose name escapes me right now. This album, and only album, When Your Heart Stops Beating, comes out in 2006. So this is, I think, after Angels and Airwaves' first album.
Or the same year, I can't remember.
Or the same year. And it is not at all Angels and Airwaves.
No.
So what's your reaction to When Your Heart Stops Beating?
That it is generic in the best possible way.
Okay.
That it is just solidly written pop punk songs.
Okay.
Kind of, it reminds me of Lady Gaga's album Applause. Or not Applause, Art Pop. Applause is the last song. I love that song. After she had done The Fame Monster, Born This Way, she had changed the face of pop music, right? Like, everyone was starting to go big and theatrical and like do weird inflections, and they were all trying to ape her, you know? So she comes out with Art Pop and like is suddenly playing defense, right? Like, she's on the back foot, kind of like, okay, I changed the scope of pop music, like the landscape of it, to look more like me. Now where do I fit in it? That there's other people that are doing this.
Yeah.
What can I still bring that's new to it? Does it work? Kind of. Overall, I think so. But like I think Applause is one of her best songs ever. But is it really anything that new? And is it going to be as special as the records that inspired all the copycats? That's kind of how I feel about Plus 44.
Mm-hmm.
That there's a lot of like other pop punk bands that are younger than them that sound like this, and this is their record that puts them firmly among the people they inspired.
Okay.
And they have the freedom to do that because it's a side project of Blink.
Right.
As Blink, they're still top notch above everybody, but like, to start something new, it's kind of like getting grounded in the state of the scene right now.
Okay.
And I kind of like that. I kind of like that it's It's also kind of all-time low-ish, but I don't know. It just works for me because it's a little bit of what I was hoping the self-titled record would be, or untitled. And I don't know, man. I think it shows, especially compared to that first Angels and Airwaves album, that Mark was the one who knew how to marry melody to lyric.
Yes.
And there's so much of that on this record, and it's like solid all the way through. It gets a little old for me after a while, but I think that's because it just doesn't have as punchy of a hook as something like Damn It. Mm-hmm. It's just missing that one killer song.
It's just missing Tom.
Kinda, yeah. Right? But solid all the way through, I'd say. Probably my favorite of the side projects.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think this album holds up.
Yeah.
Like through and through. It does feel long. It's 44 minutes. It's 12 songs. Mm-hmm. So it is a longer album. But this is an album where they go over 4 minutes. They go over 5 minutes in one song. Yeah. And I'm not nervous in the way I was for I'm Sorry. Mm-hmm. Or I'm Lost Without You. Just because Chapter 13 works at 5 minutes for me. Mm-hmm. Little Death at 4 minutes works. Lillian at 4:39. I can listen to Lillian endlessly. Mm-hmm. Weatherman at 4.5. Like these are songs, mm-hmm. not just 2 minute What's My Age Again tracks and whatnot. Yeah. Not to call them throwaway, but I don't think they're looking to be Blink on this album, which I think without having those chains makes it stand out all the better. Mm-hmm. Even just looking at the track list, talking about it now, like I'm excited to listen to this when I get in the car later to kind of revisit it and enjoy it. Mm-hmm. I think it is a really, really solid record, and I would even put it above. It's definitely above Enema for me. Like
really?
Yeah. If we were including Plus 44, or rather, let's even say if we were including all like the side projects in our ranking, I would put this above Enema. I put it at least on par with Take Off Your Pants and Jacket. I think it is. I agree with you. I think it has the mature songwriting that they were looking for on Untitled, and it just does it better because they don't have to worry about pandering to whatever the audience's expectations of Blink-182 are.
Yeah,
and that's why it works. I think what sucks about this project, there's only one album.
Yeah.
And that's me personally, just because I love this record. I remember getting the CD. I remember the different splatter colors behind the Plus 44 on the cover, and being like, "Oh, I want the blue one. Oh, but the pink one, it looks really cool." Like, yeah, I love this album.
Where does the song title come, or that a band name come from?
If I remember correctly, Mark moves to London, and Plus 44 is the area code. Yeah.
That's cute.
Which I appreciate the lack of depth on that band name there. It's just Plus 44.
Because I was ready to like write it off as like, oh, they went from Blink-182 to Plus 44, and they inspired Sum 41 and
that's
SR
what I was trying to figure out. It's
like,
just the area code.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's fun.
I think for me that works in the level of okay, here's a title from nowhere, and that's really it on their side projects. That inform.
Unless you count Alkaline Trio. Wah, wah.
But that's not a side project.
No, we'll get to that later.
I would even say maybe do you think Blink-182 is a side project for Matt Skiba? Let's talk about that then. So now we are up to Neighborhoods in 2011. Mm-hmm. So this is their first reunion with Tom, which is kind of a joke when I say it out loud, that they have multiple reunions with Tom. But I think this shows the tensions in the band, and it shows that they had something really, really special that worked for many, many people, including themselves, for a while, and then it burned out.
Yeah.
And it's prompted by some tragedies that occurred. And ultimately those two tragedies were Jerry Finn's death. So their producer who was with them on Enema, Take Off Your Pants and Jacket, and Untitled, who made them sound as good as they sound on those records. And then also a plane accident that was involving Barker and DJ AM.
Oh my God, that's right.
Yeah. And so that was their friend Adam who died there. And so Barker gets in the accident, and Hoppus and DeLong visit Barker in the hospital, and they're just happy their friend is alive. And so this rekindles the three of them having a friendship, which ultimately leads to Neighborhoods and the band getting back together. So this album, before we get into it with our own personal thoughts and each individual song and whatnot, in canon for Blink fans, this one's considered pretty notorious for its production. It's separately recorded. They were sending tracks back and forth. They'd write their own parts, and then they'd say, all right, your turn, and lob it back to them however. And so because of that, it feels like there's like a lot of lack of communication and a lot lacking in camaraderie. Barker even comments on this album that they were not commenting on one another's parts. So if Mark lays down a bass line and Hoppus wants to do something to lock in, they're not in the room together to do it.
Yeah.
You're losing that magic, which you see in practice. Like we sit there and we'll take like an hour or two just to say, we're stopping there, we're picking up here, and then we're going to rehearse it and then nail it.
Yes.
They don't do that. And while they're strong enough musicians in their own right and they know the chemistry that they share with one another, for me, ultimately, it feels like something's missing because they aren't in the room together to make that magic.
Yeah.
What did you think of the album?
My initial thought was, that's weird. I must have accidentally put an Angels and Airwaves album on instead.
Yeah.
No, 2 songs in, I'm already thinking, who is this for? You know?
Yeah.
And like, now I feel like an asshole because it's for them rekindling their friendship. But like you said, if they're just like sending files to each other and they're not locking in, that doesn't seem like a really good reunion to me.
So that's where I start to question it as well and say, like, they might have rekindled their friendship on a personal level, professionally and musically. Were they ready for this?
Right.
I don't know.
And I don't think they were ready for where rock music was at this point. This is like turn of the 2010s.
Yeah. So who do you think of as being pinnacle of rock music at this time then?
In a good way, or what was actually popular?
Both.
I mean, I lean more toward like the kind of like Arctic Monkeys side of things. Like they weren't AM huge yet. That hadn't come out yet, but they were still in their like weird psychedelic phase of like Humbug and Suck It and See. Black Keys were getting big with their like retro revival thing. We were just on the cusp of like Imagine Dragons blowing up. So Big Empty shit was very big. I mean,
So then why doesn't Neighborhoods work?
Because they don't know either. Nobody knows how rock fits in popular culture at this time. And this is kind of a reunion record and kind of the next record. You know, it's like, but there's no vision here. There's no like, what are we going to do musically that makes us excited enough to actually want to do it, you know? And I don't know, just looking at this, like the weird disjointed riff and otherwise generic structure and lyrics of Up All Night.
I hate that song.
It's a terrible song, and it just feels like the most obligatory lead single for a new album from a band past their prime.
That was their comeback single, too.
And it's a bad one.
Yeah.
Like, I really hated that song, and I remember hearing it at the time and hating that song and being like, okay, Blink's back, I guess. And After Midnight, even more so. Like,
I think that was them trying to capture the magic of I Miss You and miss really badly.
Very badly. I wrote that the end of Snake Charmer is almost cool enough to make me like the song, but I forgot the rest of it, so I can't tell.
This time around, I thought Snake Charmer was just a faster version of Up All Night, and it didn't improve it that much.
This is where the Green Day comparison really, I think, comes into play, because at this point, Green Day had done American Idiot and 21st Century Breakdown, and they were going to do the Uno Dos Tres trilogy, which isn't good, but like that's because there's too many songs. Like if they made it one album, it would have been pretty good. But that's the point. Green Day made themselves known for more than just being a snarling pop punk band. And this album, I think, proves that Blink couldn't. They didn't have something else to go to. And even like Fall Out Boy, who became awful after their heyday, were at least known for it. You know, you knew them from that song they played on ESPN that one year, like every 5 minutes, or doing a terrible Ghostbusters cover or something. Like, but at least you knew what you were getting. With this, I'm not getting anything.
Yeah.
You know?
What I was getting, that it was mostly an Angels and Airwaves record where Mark sang.
I wrote, I have the same critique for this album that Joe has for 500 Days of Summer. Too much Tom.
Too much. Yeah. Yeah, this is awful. I was so excited for this album when it came out because I was such a big Blink fan.
Right.
So hearing Ghost on the Dance Floor, I know it's just Angels and Airwaves, but I was excited.
Yeah.
And it was working for me. I hear Natives. I think Natives is a great song. I think that could be a follow-up to Untitled, but I think it also shows that Mark is kind of the rock in Blink. And it's like kind of really hammering that home on this record. There's a lot of other tracks on here that for me, it's either it's a Mark song or it's a Tom song.
Yeah.
It's not a Blink song. Whereas when I would say a Mark song, I would think of a Mark-led song.
Yeah.
Or I would think of a Tom-led song. Now when I say a Mark song or a Tom song, it's like, no, this song was written by Mark, and Tom just throws some harmonies on there, and he riffs on his Epiphone. And I don't know, that doesn't work, because Heart's All Gone, that's a plus 44 track. Through and through. I'm not saying that makes it good, I'm not saying it makes it bad, but that's a plus 44 song on what they're calling a Blink album. And then the same thing is with that non-titled song, MH418 2011.
Oh, yeah.
It's another plus 44 song, and it's a good song. I like the lyric, "Stop living in the shadow of a helicopter." I think that's a cool thing. But again, why isn't that just on a plus 44 album? Why are we putting that on a Blink album? Just because you have it laying around?
Right.
This sounds like their previous problem.
This was my problem with the Boy Genius album.
Yeah.
That a lot of the songs felt like they were just taking turns.
Yeah.
Whereas their EP felt like they were actually writing together a lot more.
Yes.
That's not to say they didn't, and I actually do like the Boy Genius album, but some of it is just very clearly, this is a song Phoebe had lying around.
Yes.
Lucy, Julian. Weirdly, Julian is probably my least favorite of the three as a solo artist, but she's my favorite in Boy Genius because she seems to be the biggest team player. But maybe that's because I'm least familiar with her stuff. Whereas Lucy and Phoebe, it just kind of feels like they're using their B material, you know?
That's interesting. We should do a Boy Genius
that would be fun
episode.
Yeah.
I'd be into that because they don't have a lot of material, but I think what they do have, there's a lot to talk about. We could talk about their solo careers too.
Yeah, their solo career stuff, then yeah.
So there's a lot of songs on here that I don't care.
I can't name most of them.
There's songs that stand out to me. Like, again, I like Natives. I think that was the updated version of a Mark song from way back when. Wishing Well isn't the updated version of a Tom song from way back when, but it's all through this like airy lens that doesn't work for me. Even if She Falls is a fine love song to end it on, they chose to end it on something happy.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's nothing special. I do have to say, and this is where I think we're going to like take an interesting turn in the series. In my notes, I wrote that this is the first album in this discography listening that I actively struggled to get through. And
yeah,
there's moments of Blink in there that I know and I love, even upon re-listening, but they're few and far between. And it's clear that the album is missing the magic of when they were younger and when they were working with Jerry Finn.
Yeah.
And so,
do you know who produced this one?
I don't. I should have looked it up. I think there was like some like Tom Lord Alge on there, because I think at this point they were big enough to get bigger names into the studio, but it's not Jerry Finn.
Yeah.
And I understand the idea of wanting to go in a different direction. I understand that he died, so you might feel listless and lost in your own way. But I also get the idea of don't rock the boat.
Yeah.
Like, if it works, why, and you're not bored by it. Were you really that bored by it? If that was the case, you shouldn't have done it.
Right.
Or Mark, Travis, maybe you should have just gone done a Plus 44 album. Tom, go do another Angels and Airwaves record. No one's stopping you.
Nothing will stop him from doing more Angels and Airwaves.
I don't think so. Yeah. But this was another one of those albums where the expectations of who Blink are and who they've set themselves up to be, even including Untitled, this disappointed.
Yeah.
Because it's just, you had the added bonus of whatever makes Angels and Airwaves work in good ways, whatever makes Plus 44 work, and you just threw it together.
Yeah. And it gets muddied by trying to make these two contrasting ideas work.
Yeah. They shouldn't have
which is
forced
the opposite of what Blink is supposed to be, of Mark and Tom naturally working together.
Right. This feels like a forced album.
Yeah.
It feels like they felt that they had to make this because their friend died and their drummer almost died. So they were like, well, I guess we're supposed to go and make music together. And this is what they came up with. And it feels disingenuous. And that brings us to Dogs Eating Dogs, our last piece of music, or rather last little piece of music that we're talking about. The one EP we're talking about.
Yeah. For this episode.
This is a year after Neighborhoods, and it's just a few songs that they threw together. Did you like this better than Neighborhoods?
Way better.
Why?
Because this is more what I was hoping Neighborhoods would be.
Okay.
I felt this is a more appropriate use of the influence of their side projects applied to what Blink is, instead of trying to mash them together and call it Blink. You know, this might be the most consistently solid Blink release because it's only 5 songs.
Okay.
This is very in line with my thinking of like, it's just 5 good songs. Go.
Okay.
You know?
So then you like this?
I like this EP, yeah.
Okay. Nice. Any songs that you remember that stand out?
No.
So I appreciate that you say that.
I didn't write them down. Maybe if I wrote them down, I'd be like, oh, yeah, I can remember that hook. The title track, I remember the hook of dogs eating dogs, eating dogs, which like normally I would have thought was annoying, but it was fucking refreshing compared to everything on Neighborhoods.
Okay. Yeah. That's fair. I think this is utterly not memorable. Except for what you just said, which annoyed me. Like I hate that. I think.
Let me look at the track list again. This is bugging me because I know I liked it when I heard it.
Boxing Days, that's on this one. That's their acoustic holiday number.
Yeah, that one was good.
I think this is them doing Neighborhoods right. Mm-hmm. And I still just wish they did their own things, even listening to it.
Yeah.
And it seems better. It sounds better. It sounds like they're in the same room at least finally.
Yeah.
But like when I was young, it sounds like Up All Night. It sounds like Snake Charmer.
Yeah.
And it's just another A&A song that Mark sings on. They have the Spacey Bridge here, which is going to come up again over and over.
Was that Pretty Little Girl?
Is Pretty Little Girl, does that have a Spacey Bridge? It might.
I think so.
Yeah, Pretty Little Girl is on this one. I don't know. Dogs Eating Dogs, I think, is more Plus 44 nearing Blink. Mm-hmm. So like they're finding their footing towards it. If they didn't put out Neighborhoods and they only put this out, I think I'd be much softer on it.
Yeah.
Because I can forgive them for all of these derivatives that I just feel I listen to on Neighborhoods. Like I said, like when I was young, sounds like Up All Night and Snake Charmer. If those songs weren't there, I'd be like, all right, when I was young kind of sounds like Angels and Airwaves, but with Mark. Cool.
Okay, now imagine that they had made Neighborhoods and listened to it together and were like, actually, this sucks. Can we shelve some of this? And then they wrote and recorded Dogs Eating Dogs and then took the best songs or the songs that work from Neighborhoods and put it with Dogs Eating Dogs and called that Neighborhoods.
I'd be fine with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that as long as it doesn't have the awful production on Neighborhoods.
That is exactly my point about why their albums are too long. Because this is it. If they had done that, if they had been like, actually, this isn't going to work, let's delay it. Let's take some time to write some new stuff, see if we get inspired. Let's get in the same fucking room together.
Yeah.
And that could have been a good album. I'm going to bring that up as a point when we do the Bruce Springsteen series, because he literally put 2 albums out on the same day, that if he had just like taken the best songs from both, he would have had one good album instead of 2 albums.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm curious what albums those are going to be when we get there. Yeah. I think it's fine in the context of everything. Honestly, it's refreshing for me to hear you say that you did like this one.
Yeah.
And I think that's awesome. I'm glad that you did.
A note I had about Neighborhoods, it made me like Untitled and Take Off Your Pants Jacket and Enema more. Like that's where it really started for me to retroactively appreciate their stuff and not be as harsh about it and be like, man, I miss some of that stuff they were doing before. So yeah, Neighborhoods, I had to see them at their blandest to appreciate what they really did offer.
Nice. I think bland is a great word to use there, because I wouldn't call it bad. But like you said, who's this for?
Yeah.
It's tasteless.
Yeah, it doesn't even feel like it's for them.
No. And I think they felt like it was supposed to be. That was such a frustrating and disappointing listen, both then and more again now. Now that I'm more critical of the music I intake and I listen to. So that brings us to the end of Sincerity Is Scary, our part 2 of our deep dive into the Blink-182 discography. How are your thoughts and feelings changing or developing?
I can't think right now because I've had 2 Spindrift sparkling waters and I have to piss like a racehorse.
You hear that, Spindrift?
Yeah. How dare you just course your liquid through me and now make me uncomfortable and having to pee? Like, come on.
You disgust us.
Yep.
And you fill us with such joy. I'm disgusted by the joy you fill me with.
Yep. And no money. So if you want to make it up to us, sponsor us.
All right. Thank you very much. We will see you next time for the 3rd and final part of our Blink trilogy. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Filler. If you liked what you heard, please rate and review this episode to help others find it. For more recommendations and exploration of media we love, go to afterschoolspecial.xyz and follow Filler on Blue Sky. See you next time.